What's going on, guys? It's Mitch here from Century 21 in Peterborough, and this week I want to talk about the major CMHC headlines we saw about the 9 to 18% price decreases in the next 12 months. I want to talk about a couple other pieces of commentary that have been made on this topic, and then I want to draw a little bit of insight from a book called The Housing Boom and Bust by an economist named Thomas Sowell, and some interesting points about which cities and states made out the best during the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis. Let's get into it, guys. All right, how's it going, guys? Mitch Cleary here with Century 21 in Peterborough, and I wanted to make a video and keep it relatively quick to address the headlines that everybody's talking about in the Canadian real estate world, which was the CEO of CMHC's mortgage corporation, Evan Sidall, saying that they forecasted between 9 to 18% price drops within the next 12 months. It's a pretty bold statement. It's a large figure and it's a very short amount of time. It's got a lot of people worried, and I just wanted to make a couple of statements on it. This is merely commentary and trying to bring some more useful information to the table. So once I watched that video, I pulled that video up. There's a lot of good commentary going on about that statement and this series of statements that were made by Evan Sidall and CMHC. And I stumbled across a video almost immediately after that was an interview from the Financial Post that's gotten a ton of views. And the title of that video was "Ignore Gloomy Forecast, Why Prices Are Not Poised to Decline 18%. So Financial Post, major institution, take their journalism seriously, watch that video, and what did they have to say? The points inside of that basically broke down, and the main speaker, Sean Cathcart, is the chief economist for CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. And most of what he brought to the table was that there was sort of some inaccurate sampling going on right now, indicating that prices might already be changing. And really, all things being told, I don't think that interview brought in enough factors in regards to household debt load and potential future unemployment rates, because obviously a big part of what is pending is having to do with the amount of debt that people have, including mortgage debt, but also all their other debts outside of that and their ability to repay them and their income. So that's one of the parts of the puzzle in terms of housing demand. But what I wanted to bring to the conversation, because there's a ton of videos out right now about how much the housing market's going to drop, when it's going to drop, and there's a ton of data that you can go over on each of those points to try and predict the range and the time and to try and bring certainty to what's going to happen. But there's so many factors, and one thing that I just haven't heard brought up at all, so I wanted to bring it into the dialogue today, is what happened and what we could learn from the 2007 to 2009 subprime crisis in the United States. And there's one important lesson from that I took away from a book called Housing Boom and Bust by a notable economist named Thomas Sowell, who is an amazing free market type of thinker. And there's a lot to be learned from him in general. But in his book, Housing Boom and Bust, he really highlighted the discrepancies between the sort of peak to trough pricing on a lot of the major metro areas and how some cities were hit so much worse than others. And what's really amazing about it all is that he shows some cities states and major metro areas that were almost not affected at all, and that really made it out more or less unscathed through the whole thing. And I was doing some research on this topic a few weeks ago, and I had pulled up the major cities that had actually seen minor price increases through the major housing collapse of 2007 to 2009. I could not find those articles today anywhere. The Google search results are just drowned with 2020 housing crash predictions and articles. But what I do know is that one of the states that was really looked at as one of the best to weather the recession of 2007 and 2009 was Texas. And what we can learn from Texas is that it had several factors that are of importance that kept it from taking the declines that other states and major metro areas did. And one of the most notable being that during the major housing rise in the later part of the 2000s, before the subprime crisis began, or before the sort of fallout of the subprime lending began, is that Texas had very relaxed land regulations. So Thomas Sowell points to the fact that a lot of these other metro areas like California and Florida and New York that had some of the largest increases in the times of the boom, and also subsequently saw the largest drops in the downfall, had artificial land restrictions in place, so that when the boom came and when the demand was on and the money frenzy of the subprime spending was in play, that builders couldn't build out to meet up with the demand for housing supply. So there's a point where the demand kept going up, supply lost check because new builders couldn't find new land and they couldn't bring it to market quick enough. So then prices decoupled from the fundamentals, and the main fundamental I'm thinking of when I speak of this is income. So Texas was a runaway example of how this can be controlled, and that all the way up through the boom, they were able to just totally build out and keep up with the demand. So the prices didn't see the massive jumps, and obviously then they didn't see the massive declines. And then on top of that, they had a fairly strong employment industry through it all. They had some, fairly strong backbone energy and tech industry there that kept them in play in terms of unemployment versus a lot of other places, because there's other areas, for example Detroit, that didn't have the massive price increases before the decline, and they still saw really negative prices after, but they almost lost all of their industry. So what we can take away from it, Sowell's big takeaway point was that a lot of these markets that see the biggest jumps also see the biggest declines, because there's a decoupling of the prices from the fundamentals of what people can actually afford to pay, and it reaches into the realm of speculation and beyond just natural price growth of increasing employment, increasing incomes, and increasing population. So the reason I say that is not to just try and make things seem like nothing's going to happen here, because it's pretty basic economics that if you have 20% unemployment, a lot of assets are potentially going to decline in price, because if money isn't circulating at the same speed and lenders are clamming up and people are losing their jobs, of course that prices can drop. What I wanted to bring into the conversation is the piece I haven't seen yet is why some markets made out so much better than others, because to say that prices are going to drop by 9 to 18%, it's impossible to generalize, and it's not correct to generalize that that's going to happen individually and unanimously across each market. So as to speak in terms of that the major metro areas such as the GTA will see the same price changes as smaller cities in our country and province. And so I just wanted to shed a bit of light on that, is when we look at what happened in the subprime crisis of 2007 to 2009 in the United States, some cities were hit way worse. And my question is, or what my question would be wherever I live, is where does my city sit in this whole pending situation? Am I in the worst scenario, or am I in the better part of the scenario? And if I'm in the better part, am I still going to see 9% price decreases? Obviously, there's so many factors that are yet to be seen there. But one thing I did want to bring up, and this is the final point, is that when we look at the incomes versus the prices, this has a bit of an indicator in terms of how affordable and how the continuing affordability of a city is going to play out. So just for example, I've got the GTA median income from CMHC in 2016 was $78,378. So the median income for Peterborough, Ontario, this is the median household income I'm using for both. The median household income for Peterborough, which is our city here, is $64,875. That was from the same 2016 database. So that's a $13,500 difference, or a 17% difference in the median household income. Now, the average sale price in April 2020 for the GTA across all sales was $821,393. So $821,393, and that's from the Canadian Real Estate Association website. And in Peterborough, in our city, and I'm eliminating the Kawartha regions because we have a lot of waterfront that greatly skews the price. Peterborough City was $435,193 average price in April. So April was a smaller sample size. We know it's not a great database to pull from there, but it's very similar to our prices in other months, as well as Toronto. It's not drastically different. So, and even if we do include the waterfront from Peterborough, for example, the average price is still sitting closer to $480,000. So the only reason I mention that is, and this is not unique to show just what's going on in Peterborough and Toronto. This can be, the principles can be taken to Vancouver and nearing cities, or what's going on in Calgary and Red Deer and other cities. And what it speaks to is how far is the median income separated from the affordability of the area. And it leads to a bit of an indicator, potentially, I don't know, let me know what you guys think, about how far out of check the prices are. Because of course, where correction is most due to happen is where the prices are the most out of step with the fundamentals, at least I think, and I think that's part of what history has shown us when we look at a lot of the 2008, 2009 data. So anyways, guys, that's it for me. What I want to say is this isn't going to be the same across all provinces in our country, and it's not going to be the same across all cities within those provinces, and each individual location is going to have its own unique abilities to weather this, and each location is going to have its own unique vulnerabilities to why the prices might be out of check. So the question is, where do I sit in all this? Where does my city sit? And then try and make your next choice based off of that. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you're interested in this kind of content, it seems like everything is really starting to steer towards these larger market updates and following along with this news. I really love following these topics. I don't know any more than the next person. I'm just someone who reads a ton of articles and watches a lot of videos, but I really appreciate being part of this dialogue with you guys, and I want to continue to bring this kind of content to you. If you're interested in watching it, consider subscribing. And if you found any value in this video, guys, please hit the like button. It helps the YouTube algorithms see it a little more visibly and promote it a little bit more, and just sort of helps keep these videos going to know that people are really wanting to see the content and everybody's engaging with it. So thanks a lot, guys, and looking forward to talking to you next week.